incredible years. Everybody's setting records. And there's also great defensive stories. Seattle, Baltimore, Chicago, Dallas. This is the best year I ever remember. I think it's great. Now, the NFL's got a little bit of an issue this year. By the way, every great business has an issue. The officiating appears to have regressed in the last year. Dean Blandino left. He came over here to Fox. I think they miss him and should hire him back and pay him a lot of money because I think the officiating in big games has not been great. Minnesota last night, 2 calls, one against the Vikings that I didn't like either of them. There was a pass interference call against the Vikings. I thought it was a bogus call. And the block kick, I thought Bobby Wagner jumped over and touched his teammate. You can't do that. And I think it did take a field goal, off the board. But don't kid yourself, Minnesota. You've had 13 chances this year to prove you're a step-up franchise, and you're 0 for 13. You're terrible in these big games. You never make the play. You're the only team in the NFL that can turn 13, and this is mathematically impossible. You turn 13 into an even number, 6-1. You got a big break against the Packers and Clay Matthews. You couldn't even win that game. So there's no team in the NFL that would be 11-2, but instead they're 7-6 because of the officiating. That took a field goal off the board. I thought it was a lousy call, but Seattle has an identity, and you don't offensively. Your offensive line's average. You don't run the ball. You have 2 great receivers, but you never hit them downfield, and Kirk Cousins stinks in big games. So here, and I'll say this, the NFL does the best job of any sport in America. This is why it's the king, of fixing their on-field problems quickly. Catch rule, turn it around. In fact, they changed the catch rule during last year's Super Bowl. They were getting so much heat for it that literally the Super Bowl in season, biggest game, most viewers, you know what? We're going to start making those 50-50 calls, catches. They did it in the Super Bowl. Philadelphia got 2 calls. They should have. They earned it, and they won the Super Bowl. And nobody complained about it since that point forward. I mean, the NBA's got real issues. A third of the league is tanking to get Zion Williamson from Duke. A third of the league minimum is tanking. The Eastern Conference ratings are down 20% because one player, LeBron, left. And oh, by the way, I think we already know who's going to win the NBA championship. I mean, seriously, Houston's now a mess. So I don't want to hear about, the officiating, I think, has regressed this year. But I don't remember a year. There are 10 teams in the NFC. Are we in week 15, Joy? Is it week 15? We're in week 15. We have 10 NFC teams with a chance to make the playoffs. And we have 2 wild card teams, Chargers and Seahawks, maybe Baltimore, that are capable of winning multiple playoff games. So,
I don't really remember this many teams being legitimate playoff contenders.
In week 15.
Right.
It's incredible. Peter King joins us via the Coward Global Satellite Network. As much as we're talking offense, the Ravens are a defensive story. The Bears are a defensive story. The Colts are playing out of their minds in the last month defensively. Let's talk about the Bears. Matt Nagy would be my coach of the year. Trubisky's got a low ceiling, Peter. You've been covering this league for over 3 decades. Could you see this Chicago team home field early? Is it a Super Bowl team or just a fun playoff story to you?
Well, I think if Chicago's going to be a Super Bowl team, okay, you have to understand that they're going to have to win at least 1 game and maybe 2 away from home. I think what the difficult thing for the Bears will be winning away from home is that I can't imagine that on a decent day that the Los Angeles Rams are going to struggle as much on offense as they did on a 25-degree night in Chicago. And then the other issue is going to be, we haven't even talked about, will they be able to go into the Thunderdome in New Orleans potentially and have to win a game there in either, their divisional game or the championship game. So, Colin, it's possible. But in my opinion, I think that I still don't trust Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's a good prospect. But he hasn't shown me yet that he can put 8 great quarters together in January. And maybe he'll prove us all wrong. We'll see.
Mark Madden is a longtime radio and writer in Pittsburgh. And he said today, if McCarthy's going to get run out midseason because he and his quarterback can't get along, Mike Tomlin... The special teams are a mess. Sunday, the situationally, we were a mess. We're the only team in the league that's basically 500 in the last 7 years, when we're a 9-point favorite or more, we play down to our competition. Is it wrong to suggest maybe Mike Tomlin's time is done? Is that unfair to you, or are there real questions about the Steelers unraveling again late in the year?
I think it's unfair. The Steelers. This is the 50th season where you go Noel, Cowher, Tomlin. So it's almost like, Colin, what do we talk about every December? Oh, well, geez, Mike Brown has to fire Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis can't take this team to that next step. They can't even win a playoff game. So, okay, all right, so Marvin Lewis is going to be gone in Cincinnati. Well, the problem is the great unwashed out here, including me and you, we don't make that decision. Mike Brown does. And I can't tell you whether he's going to fire Marvin Lewis. I doubt he will. But the same thing in Pittsburgh. I will never forget going into Pittsburgh, and I think I'm right in saying this. They go 6-10 under Bill Cowher, and the next year they're 15-1. And that is all Dan Rooney always used to talk about when he would say, "You guys want us to fire a coach?" This is about a continuum. We will turn it around. We'll be okay. As for what's going on there right now, I think the biggest issue in Pittsburgh is that if you don't have a running game to accompany Ben Roethlisberger, you're in trouble, because then they're teeing off on the quarterback and not respecting your running game. Without Bell, without Connor, that is an offense that is in trouble, because Ben Roethlisberger is going to get a lot of pressure. History shows he gets hit a lot, not necessarily sacked a lot. He gets hit a lot because he just can't get out of the way.
I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys, and it's great theater, and it's so good for the league. And I have been all over the map. I didn't like Dak out of college. I thought he was a better Tebow. And then he goes 13-3, and I'm like, okay, kid special. And then I don't like him again because he can't throw for over 200 yards in an era where everybody's throwing for 200 yards. But he has leadership. He's a little mobile. He's a tough kid. He always says the right thing. Give me your kind of, I've been all over the map on Dak, and I've come to this point that what he does create is stability, mobility, leadership for the biggest brand in American sports. And that is worth something, even if he's limited. Where are you now on Dak?
No question.
Where are you on Dak?
I'd say those are almost exactly my thoughts. Now you take the next step and you ask yourself, okay, are you going to pay Dak Prescott to be your long-term guy? Are you, this coming off season, going to enter into negotiations to try to make him your quarterback for the next 6 years? And I think the Dallas Cowboys are. Yeah. But now the question is, do you pay Dak Prescott $29 million a year?
Oh, Lord.
And, at some point, Colin, if you're committing to a guy, you got to pay him the market rate for what quarterbacks make.
You know what?
And that seems totally absurd. I get it. But you may have to pay the going rate.
You know what, Peter? I was saying this yesterday. I'll play Dak's agent. I'm going to say this. I won you the second NFC East in 3 years, and I'm making less than a DJ in Dallas, than a disc jockey. You're the biggest brand in America. You're paying me less than a rock and roll DJ downtown, and I have won you the division twice. I'm not taking a discount. Peter, I think Dak's agent has a lot of leverage here.
Well, he does, but any person who is drafted in the 4th round of a draft in a slotting system, your rookie contract is just going to stink, relatively speaking, if you play very well. So I don't really think that is an argument. Sure, they're going to make the argument that, hey, he's been underpaid for his first 3 years here. That's valid. But at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to your comparisons. If I were Dak Prescott's agent, I would say, listen, we are going to compare Dak Prescott to Kirk Cousins. Okay, we're going to compare the numbers, we're going to compare the wins, and we're going to compare the value. And we're not even going to ask for the whole contract to be guaranteed. But we think that the base that we're going to have to start talking is $28 million a year. And everybody is going to say, oh my God, that is ridiculous. It's pathetic, everything. And I get it. I totally get it. But if you wipe away all of the emotion, if they finish this year strong, if they win a playoff game, Dak Prescott is going to make probably $28 million a year.
He is. He absolutely is. Peter, I don't root for Super Bowls. I really don't. Now, I've enjoyed watching Tom Brady and Belichick's dynasty. I'm from Seattle. I love Russell Wilson. But if I could say to you, just as a football fan, is there an ideal Super Bowl matchup you would love to see this year? I don't think it's going to happen. I would love to see Mahomes and Andy Reid against the Colts and Andrew Luck in the AFC Championship. Is there a team or a matchup that you think is more intriguing this year?
Well, I would really like to see another game between Baltimore and Kansas City in January. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that would be fun.
Yeah.
The matchup I think that would be most fun to see in the Super Bowl this year is Kansas City and New Orleans. Yeah. And I say that because, look, you've got you've got a couple of really smart veteran coaches who make stuff up even still to this day. Really good, smart guys. And they got quarterbacks who pull the trigger on exactly what they want to do. Explosive offenses, fun teams to watch. And that would be the one that if I'm sitting here right now and you say, what's your ideal Super Bowl matchup today? I'd love to see Kansas City play New Orleans.
NBCSports.com, Peter King. Great stuff on a Tuesday. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Colin.
Trent Dilford, Derwin James, absolutely loaded. Here is Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.